I always like to start a sermon with please and thank you. It's pretty simple, really. My mother was good to me for starters. She was great in the manners department. The second reason is that I love preaching whenever I get the chance to do it. And that's why I always thank the Lord for taking over whenever I start running my mouth. Please and thank you. Happens more often than you think. I've been in the ministry for over 40 years, chillinz. My mother wanted me to apply my academic talents in the university. She wanted the engineering life for me. A Goblin dream job. My old pa, yeah, well, he wanted nothing more for me to join the family business of plumbing. We called it Carl's Commodes. I would say I recommend their services, but my vow of poverty prohibits me from using such facilities these days. And that's part of the reason the monastic life can be rough. No lady goblins, no money in the bank, and no pot to crap and piss in when things get rough in life. But it's the best decision I've made in my short life of 300 years. I can't describe the feeling I get in the evening as I watch the sun go down on our little monastery right outside Green Dagger County while I say my evening prayers. I enjoy the more mundane parts of the job as well, doing the dishes, sweeping the porch, and feeding our gorillas before they rest their heads and drift off to sleep. Don't worry, they're raised for their milk, not their flesh, chillinz. And don't forget my favorite part, charity business. It's always the highlight of the week when I get to run the Meals on Wheels ministry with my dear brother, Father McRiley. You ever seen a dwarf in the sidecar of a hot rod before? It's a precious marriage of hilarity and holiness, beloved. Needless to say, I've grown more in these 40 years than I did in the past 250. But like I said, it's not easy work. Hardest thing I've done in my short life, you see. Like I said, the monastic life doesn't bother me much. It's mainly ministering to the laity, the poor, and the supplicants who come to me. When I first started out, I was really hoping to change the world. My heart was in a good place, sure. But little did I know these were the ramblings and dreamings of a young goblin, soon to touch down with reality. These chillinz out here, who come and see me, they're hopeless half the time. I try to convince them that there's nothing but love in the heart of God for them, but it's so hard to get them to see it. And why should they? Poverty, sickness, and decrepitude strikes our lands. It's my will and sincere prayer that all of my spiritual sons and daughters get to have that experience of divine love at least once in their short little life. Or, if they can't feel it, believe it. Sometimes it's neither, and when they can't believe it, you just gotta love them all the more. Right here is a story which gives some insight into my life as a monk and preacher. A great tale of faith, chillinz. I was there, giving a sermon on one of my favorite topics, union with the divine essence. This is a bit of an advanced theological topic, but I try to speak about it in the mother tongue, the vernacular, if you will. That's what I'm all about, making sure everyone can understand what I'm getting at, you see. I had just got done explaining the three essences of the divine presence in all of creation, and how all of the different races experience a unique yet universal union and communion with God. That's right, chillinz, not just the goblins and dwarves, but the humans and elves too. Even the delicious creatures out there, of whom I'm unallowed to feast on due to my clothly commitments. Forgive the ramble, chillinz. I'm not a preacher by trade, you see. I was born for it, and it permeates every cell in this old and fragile body of mine. I gotta share truth and love, which are the same thing, by the way, beloved, whenever I get the chance. But there I was, about to get to how we can better relate to this divine love in our daily lives, principally through the actions of contemplative prayer and acts of devotion, as it were. It was then when I experienced an unpleasant interruption of sorts from a foreign gentleman. His accent and style of dress was strange, indicating his origin from a distant land. He had seemed to take issue with my teachings, particularly the ones related to the love of God in all things, for all folks.
That's some false teaching you got right there. If you knew what I knew, you'd open up the good book yourself and start preaching from the Word of God. Every good sermon needs an altar call. You gotta tell people about hell before you tell them about heaven.
I gently tried to nudge my critic in the right direction. Simple souls are often bogged down in dualities, and particularly get to start feeling a certain kind of way when you mention universal, divine love. And that's why you meet it with more love. So I said, "Very good, my son. I see you have a strong sense of justice, and that can take you far. But the more you spend time with the Lord in contemplation, you will begin to see that the only thing that burns in the fires of hell is the judgment of your own conscience. You will then see that the love of God, too, was a type of flame, a refining fire that never went out. And you too will thank God for that very fire burning within you. For then you will be saved."
What are you getting at, Greenie? Do you mean to tell me that all will be saved?
I felt a rush of fear run down my crooked spine, but Providence guided me to choose the right words. "You are asking me about a future that I cannot know, my son. But what I can tell you is this, that the love of God is indeed a flame that burns in the heart of every creature in all things, and works together for the good of everything that it inhabits. I can assure you of that, chillinz."
What good does getting saved do me if it happens to everyone? Why should I worry about living for the good Lord if some heathen gets in too?
I thought of all the laity I had the honor of serving throughout the years, sick and poor, believer and unbeliever alike. Beloved, the whole lot of them. And his comment really grinded my gears. I was tempted to yell, "Shut your damn pie hole, you friggin' hypocrite," and usher him away. But I resisted the urge. Nothing that a little prayer can't change, chillinz. Instead, I said, "Remember the prayer of Saint Sri Frank, my son. Be merciful to me, my God, for I am a sinner. Repeat it as often as you need, in all troubles, trials, and temptations."
I don't need no dead-gum prayer from a saint. I'm a believer, a farmer, a mechanic, a cowboy, and a ladies' man. And I also own guns. Yeehaw!
It was then that the supplicant hopped on the back of his warg and started riding off. He hit the thing with a stick. He had another stick in one of his hands that gave off an explosion every time he squeezed his fingers. It scared the rest of the chillinz gathered around. I didn't know what to say at first, but I wasn't at a loss for long, due to the fact that another supplicant approached, and he wasn't too happy himself.
Ah, shit, damn it. This asshole's got me cussing during a church service. Forgive me, Father, but guys like that really piss me off. Using magic sticks and all that fancy jazz just to intimidate people? Like I always say, it takes a real man to draw a claymore off your back and start swinging. It doesn't take much at all to pull a stick out of your ass and freeze an army of elves to death.
He paused for a split second, as if to gather himself, looked up at me with the slightest nudge, as if to ask for my approval. I laughed inwardly. Embarrassing, I thought in jest. Deep down I found true mirth in his phrases, and found a sort of innocence in them despite their misguided nature. I found myself unable to outwardly affirm his conduct, but tried my best to orient myself towards the supplicant in grays. Yes, my son, he was a little bit of trouble for us all, but God protected us from all harm. Nevertheless, did you have anything else you'd like to say? And besides, do you mind stating your name, my son? His gaze and fragrance of machismo returned in an instant as he opened his mouth.
They call me Johnny K. And yeah, Father, I do got a problem with this whole religion thing. Never really made sense for me. I mean, for one, it was never the real manly guys who were into it. Never saw one of the King's Iron Knights get on his knees before, during, or after battle. We tried to bring our enemies down to their knees, not ours. Something we also like to do to our ladies, too, if you know what I mean. Ah, crap, not again. Sorry, Father, like I said, never really was into this whole religion thing. But that's not even the main issue. What I don't get is all the dogma and doctrines, the rules and regulations. In the military, it makes perfect sense to have all that. I mean, you have a set objective and certain ways to get the job done, crushing the skulls of the enemy, that is. But why the hell would it be that way with God? I mean, isn't he supposed to be like a father or something? What kind of dad says you gotta do certain things just to make him love you? Screw that. Even more, it ain't even just that. I mean, you gotta think about him the right way. I mean, for real, Father, pardon my language, but you mean to tell me that if I do the right things and avoid the bad things, believe the good things and don't believe that heresy jazz, say the right words with the right feeling in my heart before I die, then God will magically love me? I mean, come on, pal. What the hell is up with that?
He stood there and waited for my response. I could see his frustration clearly. I turned inwardly, though my prayer was and is continuous. I found something different in the heart of this man than that of the previous supplicant, the one with the boomstick. There was something more fundamentally pure, more truthful, less desperately sick with his heart than that of the self-righteous supplicant. It was as if he only needed a few pointers and his faith would be A-OK. A simple gaze from the love of the divine. I said my pleas, my thank you, and received from the Lord. Your doubts are quite understandable, my son. I paused and started to pace about around my little podium. His eyes were ablaze. They glared back at me, full of rage, full of sorrow. Seeking. I wonder, I hope it comforts you to know that there are many who've come before you, and no doubt after you with many of the same questions, my son. While I can't answer all of your questions in a short time, I would share with you this. I do not do what little good I do for a reward in any afterlife, or to get anything out of life. I don't do it because I'm afraid of punishment, of wrath or death. When I am overwhelmed and overcome by my Father's love, it is both the means and the end to all of life. Present before all beginnings, thereafter all ends. We don't seek him for the good. We seek him the good. I turned towards him, and the windows of our souls exchanged light. And when we are overcome by His love, the most important person becomes the one who is with us. The most important moment now. I hope I have been a help to you, my son. You'll be in my prayers for sure. I then asked him if I could bless him, and he agreed. He disappeared into the crowd, silent. I answered many more questions that day, and gave what I could to all the chillinz gathered around. But this man stayed in my heart ever since, and I remembered him in prayer for the days and weeks before I saw him next.
Swords! I had just got done chopping up elf number 97. It was a showdown between me and 100 of them. Just me and my greatsword. I call her Sonia. There was 3 of them left, and they were closing in on me with their daggers. That's right when I woke up and hit my head on the store wall. I've been staying with different people here and there lately, ever since the tavern situation, you know. I always hate waking up from those dreams where I'm fighting, you see. I used to be such a good knight, a duelist. I used to be a lot of things. I got out of bed, if you can call it that. I always had sweet dreams of sword fighting, and back in the day, I'd wake up to a little sword fight, if you know what I mean. I was a real ladies' man back in the day. Just another thing I used to be. It was early in the morning, before sunrise. Out of all the stalls, I was the only one of my kind. It was a variety barn. There were chickens, pigs, cows, and a couple horses, all in their own pens. When me and Frank were fighting in elf country, we heard about one of those places where they lock the animals up and let the talking races pay to come watch them. I always thought that was a sick thing to do, but maybe, I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be lecturing people on shady business models. I wonder what people would have thought if they came and saw me in this place, if they think I was a farm animal of sort, a shell of a man, with no purpose. They'd say, the cow says moo, makes milk, eats grass, the horse runs, the chicken lays eggs. But look at this man over here. What's he doing? He's in a cage, just sitting there. Sometimes he laughs to himself. Sometimes he gets angry and punches a hole in his stall. But mostly, he just sits there and thinks, but nobody knows what. I used to be a lot of things, and there's a few things that I am now that I never was. Maybe I'm becoming a bit of a poet. I thought about taking one of those horses and running off to a distant land, starting a new life for the 10th time. I thought about taking some milk and cheese from the storehouse and selling it for drinking money. I thought about using some of the rope in the stalls to hang myself. But I had this thought that maybe I've taken too many things already. I rummaged through my pockets and took out the slip of paper that I got from the priest. It had a prayer and a date on it. I sighed, rubbed my eyes a bit to wake myself up. I grabbed the nearest cow by the udder and got a shot of that creamy goodness to start my day off right, and took a few eggs from the hens for the journey. I could see the sun just barely starting to rise. And then I took a step.
Hold the line, me laddies! Father McRiley, the dwarven priest, shouted. We were under heavy assault. Our position was getting overrun. The Meals on Wheels ministry was in full swing. The best time of my life. We were hauling 12 Goblin-made choppers in a unified procession down Shroomglade Drive. Father McRiley was with me on my bike, riding Monkey in the sidecar. A glorious crowd of supplicants and hungry were gathered around, trailing behind and on the sides. Me and my brethren of the cloth were indiscriminately throwing various victuals at the chillinz, making sure they got what they needed. We wanted everyone to be able to enjoy some delicious treats. Yet we didn't want anyone to get bad nutrition from our food. So me and Father McRowley came up with the meat and sweet doctrine. We'd always wrap up a piece of elven taffy in a hearty strip of bacon before launching it. The sky was covered in these little bundles of joy, and there was plenty to go around. I suspect that some of you might wonder how and why we have all this food together when there's so many poor and starving, needy among us. Why does the church get all the money? Well, believe me, chillinz, I've asked myself the same question. And I've tried to change what I can. But I'm just one goblin. And there's only so much I or any one of us can do. But I trust the Lord with all of my little heart. And I try to do the best I can with the gifts He's given me. To do the things He's asked me to do. We were closing in on our destination and began to set up our little shop. It was morphin' time. All of our choppers combined into one humongous rig. It was the ultimate food truck. And we began to go inside and start setting up our hot dog and cheeseburger operations. We even offered a vegan version for the folks out there that swing those ways. I hopped inside and began the meal preparations. We were gonna do fries and tots to go with the meals. I could hear Father McRowley outside, guiding the crowd, gently nudging them to get in line.
Hurry now, me chillinz. Get your fannies in line. Yes, you, got in line. No cutting in front of your brothers and sisters. You'll all get something to eat soon enough.
I was busy throwing some dogs and burgers on the grill, and that's right when I got a message from McRiley. It seemed there was a supplicant who was cutting up in the line real bad, but not because of greed. He wanted to see me.
Meister Eckhart, you've got a visitor.
Let him come. So he did. He went right up to the serving window and spoke to me. It was kind of interesting. Both times we spoke, I had the high ground, which is very rare for interactions between goblins and humans. He was tall even for a man. He had black hair and green eyes, some muscles left over from the glory days, and some newfound fat. But I digress. Well, hey there, Johnny. So good to see you, son. I knew you'd come. I was playing it off cool because I didn't want to be dramatic. But inwardly, I was deeply moved by his arrival. He had been in my prayers, in my heart, all week. And it was a joy to see him here.
Hey, Father, you remember my name. I guess I'm kind of surprised.
Don't mention it, son. It's in the vocation.
I'm here to help.
I can see that. Let's get you suited up. I beckoned him forward, gestured towards the truck. What do you know about cooking hamburgers and dogs? You like to pour drinks?
I dabble, Father.
He smirked, and authentic joy became apparent in the act. Let's get to it then. He went inside the truck. I gave him an apron, and it looked just right on him. The ingredients are right hit. He interrupted.
Hold up, Father, let me cook. I mean, that's what the kids say nowadays.
He said, slapping me on the back. Ah, speaking in the common tongue. That's good theology, my son. Instantly, he began to start throwing patties on the grill, fine-tuning the heat to perfection. He grabbed a spatula and got to flipping. He'd do half a dozen in one swoop. Like a general on a battlefield, he had total command of his station. His work with the spatula reminded me of one of those legendary Mazakuzaman warriors, wielding epic katana blades. I heard about him way back in the day. Anyways, I was out of a job. I honestly wasn't sure what to do. But then I remembered the vegan patties in the freezer, so I grabbed them and thought I'd give them to him.
What's up with that, pal? We're not about to serve any of that zesty crap, are we?
I was a little disappointed, so I tried to gently nudge him towards a kinder approach.
Son.
He got the drift, exhaled.
Sorry, Father, I'm a bit new to this whole grace and mercy thing.
It's okay. We all are, my son. I grabbed my spatula and threw the vegan patties and dogs on the grill. It wasn't long before we were ready to start serving, which is mostly what I did. It was a long shift. We were probably there for over 10 hours, just sweating it out in steam and grease. I stuck my head out the window. I couldn't see a single soul who was lacking something to eat. In fact, we saw a bunch of familiar faces while we were serving. We were all out, save for 2 vegan burgers and a handful of tots. I helped myself and offered one to Johnny.
Wait, what you doing? You like to get high off your own supply?
Johnny asked. I scoffed the burger down before answering. I was tired and hungry. What can I say? He wasn't interested in his, gesturing me to eat it. And I did. Well, of course I do. I might be in the ministry, but I'm still a goblin. Roar! I said, gleaming my pearly whites in a toothy smile. I then went for his knees, as if to strike. He tapped my shoulder 3 times, signifying defeat, and he brushed it off. I gestured towards the door, ushering us outside. It was a beautiful evening in Green Dagger County. The sun was setting just above the tree line. The children were playing in the creek, while their families picnicked on the side of the road. I turned to Johnny. Real nice day out here. He was staring off into the distance, barely catching what I was saying. He responded,
Yeah, it is.
Are you bothered by anything, my son? He broke his gaze and looked at me.
Yeah, I guess so. I was just thinking about a friend.
I could tell he was deeply troubled, but we were in no place to talk about it. To this day, I sometimes regret not asking him, but I guess I was just tired, and there was still some work left to be done. I went up to the morphin module and flipped the switch, and the whole rig suddenly transformed into a giant machine, a tower of sorts with a huge spout running down the length. Johnny looked at me with wide eyes. I smirked real big and said, This is where the fun begins. Come on, let's go. We rode the elevator up to the top of the tower and started grabbing these bags of elven sugar. I let big old Johnny do most of the heavy lifting, if I'm being honest. He emptied them in the mixer, and I took a few phials of goblin and dwarven flavoring, hidden in my robes, and mixed them in.
What's this for?
Come on, you're about to see. We went back down. I got Johnny to set up a table with these little paper cones. I pressed a few buttons on the module, and our machine went to town. I screamed at the top of my lungs, Cotton candy, chillinz! Come and get it while it's hot! They gathered in droves, waited patiently for their turn, and we served them all till we ran out dry. The little ones went right back to playing on the side of the road, and there were all sorts of activities and games happening. We lit some sky lanterns as well as some on stakes, and set them up to illuminate the soon-to-be night sky. Me, Johnny, and McRiley just sat there and watched. Tired from our labors, no doubt. Not too far from our gaze, there was a group of kids playing knights and monsters. They were using some sticks and limbs and bark for their swords and shields. For the most part, it was an innocent game of pretend. A good game for youngins to play, which helped to develop courageousness. But amidst this joyful game was a bit of commotion. One of the little ones, who was a bit bigger than all the others, was doing some major roughhousing. He had just defeated one of the dwarven younglings in battle, and proceeded to smack him in the face with his stick. Johnny was the first one of us to get up, and I must admit that I was a little afraid of what he'd do. But I prayed, and the Lord beckoned me to let Johnny cook, so to speak. Me and Father McRowley rushed to the little dwarf. His face was cut up a little bit. We gave him some elven ointment and a few goblin pain-killing gummies and said a prayer over him. He was better in no time and went right back to playing. We saw Johnny dealing with the boy who did the damage. He was a stone elf who had rocky formations that grew on his skin. He had some on his head where the other races would have had a hair. Johnny was furious, I could tell. He had been swearing the whole time he was running towards the boy. He snatched the stick out of the kid's hand like it was nothing, broke it over his knee. They were both ventilating a bit.
You think this little thing makes you tough?
Johnny said, throwing its remains on the ground. The little boy hung his head, quite ashamed of what he had done.
Look, kid, I guess I'm in no place to judge anyone for acts of violence. God knows I've done my fair share of it before. But look, if you keep acting that way, you're going to end up, well, like me. Do you want that to happen?
The elving's eyes were full of tear, and gave a confused look, as if he was in a double bind. No good answer to a question like that.
No, sir?
Johnny inhaled and exhaled, got closer to the boy, placed his hand on his shoulder.
Look, I guess all I'm saying is this, kid. There's more to being a man than all of this macho stuff. The swords and ladies and all that. It takes a real man to own up to all the stuff he's done. To apologize and make it right. I'm sorry if I scared you, pal.
Johnny pointed to the little dwarf, who was busy playing and had all but forgotten the offense.
Come on, let's go,
he said. The young elf and Johnny went over to the dwarfling, interrupting the game. The elf was shy, but Johnny gently nudged him forward.
Come on, you got this, pal. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for hurting you. I was being selfish. I just wanted to look cool. Please forgive me.
The dwarven child pretended to stab him in the gut with his little stick.
Don't you mention it. Come here.
The dwarf pounced on his elfling friend, slapped him on the back.
We're still best mates, after all.
I could see that something in Johnny broke. His hands were covered in a handkerchief the entire time, weeping. He brushed it off as the little ones turned back, noticing him.
Are you okay, mister? Yeah, don't mention it.
Johnny went up to the nearest tree. He drew a knife from his belt and cut down a limb, and used the blade to hack off its tiny branches. He handed it to the elfling.
You need a new sword, don't you?
The boy took it with hesitation. Johnny urged him to practice his swing with it.
You got a better idea of what to do with it now. It's for protecting our friends. It's a fine blade you got on you.
The elfling smiled and thanked Johnny, and returned to do battle with his dwarven friend. I had been watching him from the road, near my cotton candy machine, up on the hill. Johnny was giving instructions to the boys as if he were their master. He was even throwing a little bit of wisdom in there. And I just sat there and drifted off to sleep. I still desperately wanted to help him out. But I trusted the Lord with my new friend. I gave my pleas, my thank you. At the end of the day, he didn't need me to tell him where to go and what to do. He was in great hands, and he was already beginning to speak the language of heaven.